I'd like to thank you for allowing us to be here today. I work for Cookson Hills Christian School. We're a children's home for at-risk children. And so I'd like to present that to you. And what I'd like to present to you more than anything, we've been involved with Cookson Hills in my life since I was born. And my parents actually, when we got up, they had 3 boys. And when we got up into those adolescent years, they considered moving to Cookson Hills to be house parents. And I've often said it was because of my older brothers, but I probably have to take a little bit of claim in that as well. They didn't, but we've been involved with Cookson Hills since its inception. And I get to tell everybody that I'm as old as Lawrence Hallam was, if you know who that is. He was kind of the man that set Cookson on the course it is today. And back in '61, when they came to Cookson Hills as the directors, and because I knew him before he went there, so I just tell them we're the same age, and they look at me rather funny, and you may be looking at me the same way, and that's all right. But I just appreciate you having us. Cookson Hills is a unique ministry. It has helped children throughout the ages of being in business and as a children's home. But it's not a business as such. It is a facility that has to have a business side, but it's a ministry. And it's, to me, is as a ministry of mission work. It's one of those that it meets a need that is a little bit unique in our society. It's one that's kind of specialized. And so we take at-risk kids. And those kids are ones that are unable to live in their own home. Back in the day, the kids were sometimes children that were headed into the legal system and the penal system, and they were able to come to Cookson Hills opposed to that and have opportunity to learn new ways to live and new ways to act and new ways to believe. Cookson's a faith-based organization. The scripture has all the answers for anything that we need in our lives. And without them, there really isn't any hope. You can make it through life, but without Christ and without His love and His forgiveness and His mercy, there just isn't a whole lot else left. And so Cookson has a very strong belief that that is the method by which to reach these children. I'm going to give you a little bit of the old and the new, because Cookson has, I don't know if you want to call it morphed or evolved or changed. It's changed a lot. And I believe change is important. While I'm a person that does not like change, I have routines. I like my routines to go the same way every day. I like things to flow, and I work in a job that none of that happens. And so my job now at Cookson is I am the manager of the maintenance department. We are a 1,000-acre facility. We have just a lot of buildings, and I never can keep count of them. We're in the process of removing a lot of the old buildings due to the inability to maintain them the way they should be, and their cost effectiveness to maintain them. And we have built a lot of new ones, and we're continuing to work on that. And we're just creating a campus that will handle the next 65 years. Cookson's been there since 1957. That was 2 years after I was born. So with that, a little more history about us is Patty and I came to work at Cookson Hills as house parents in 1991. We did come on April 1st. We kind of thought that was appropriate, and because they have understood that ever since. But we left there in '04. We're no longer house parents. We moved out and lived in the, I guess you call it the private world. But in 3 years ago, almost 4 years ago, I was fortunate enough to receive a job there again. All during that time, from '04 to 2015, 19, excuse me, Patty and I, our hearts have always been with the ministry because of the effectiveness it has on the children. So without further ado, I will go into a presentation and just try to help you, update you a little bit on the changes. And I'll try to give you reasons on some of it, and most of it's really simple. Cookson Hills is a setting of a better story. As the picture shows, we have a beautiful campus. Like I said, it's about 1,000 acres. The ministry occupies about 300 to 400 acres of it, and the rest of it is woods and pasture. Okay, I get two pictures and there's one on the screen. So this is the Dillon family. The Dillons originally owned the 1,000 acres, and they came out to Northeast Arkansas just to raise a family, and they were Christian folks, and they just started going on. As you can see, they kind of look like a Cookson family, as you'll see. They've got, 7 kids, and mom and dad, and that's kind of the model we use on Cookson. Along that time, there was a family named the Kernans, and excuse me just a second. I forgot to mention that out on the table there's several brochures, and this one particularly will have a lot of the same information in it and tell you about the old and the new a little bit. But there's several different brochures out there. For those of you that would like to look at the financial records, we have a year-end financial record from last year, and we encourage you to look at that. And so we'll move on there from that. But the Kernans came, and the Kernans just were up in Ohio, or Idaho, and they had a burning in their heart to start a children's ministry in the South. So they moved down to Oklahoma, and then they started talking about what they wanted to do. And one of the families they came across was the Dillon family. And the Dillons liked what they had to say, which was to start a children's home where they could take kids that couldn't stay at home and raise them and help them, learn life skills and learn about the Lord. So the Kernans came and talked to the Dillons. The Dillons said, we like that idea. And so they gave them 80 acres. And they started the children's home. This picture is of the Dillons after they had done that, and they started construction of buildings. And so the Dillons jumped in and helped with that. The young man in the picture on the right is the Dillons' oldest son. Well, a few years ago, we were looking for a director, and that would have been about 1992. We were looking for a new director, and this guy comes in from California, and I get to meet him, and I'm just visiting with him as a house dad. And he was the Dillons' oldest son, and he is a psychologist, and he wanted to look at coming back and helping. It didn't work out for him to do that, but he was interested. And so it's neat to see that legacy following generations in a family. This is Lawrence and Ellen Hallam. These are the folks that actually brought the ideal and the model for Cookson Hills as it is today. Lawrence was a minister in Moore, Oklahoma, and was very happy and content at the church. But the Kernans were getting some health issues and were tired from trying to do it all on their own pretty much, and so they started talking to people about coming in and helping. And the Hallams said, we'll do it. And so they came to Cookson as the directors and started putting forth an effort to raise some money to help the ministry grow and to be able to get the houses in and stuff. This is a typical Cookson family back in the day. You would have anywhere between 10 to 14 kids in a house. Sometimes you had them, when they got the new houses built at that time, they were a 7-bedroom house. You had a house parent room, and then on each end you had 3 rooms that would hold normally 2 kids apiece, but when they had the need, they'd put 3 in a room. And their theory was take kids and take a chance with them, make it work. This is a new family today. Pretty much looks the same. They wear, their color pictures, which is nice, but they're still the same kind of families. And this is a mom and dad house parents. They have 4 biological children, the little girl in mom's arms, and then the 3 boys. They're all a little older now, and this picture's about 1.5 years old, and some of the kids have graduated, some of them have left, and but it's the same basic looking family. This family was at one of our rodeo days, which used to be our open house. The lady in the middle with the white hat, she's a good guy, and but anyway, that is Grunwald. Eileen Grunwald, I'm sorry. These were our supervisors when we first moved in and to the 80 area. She and Roger got married when she was between 19 and 20. I don't recall exactly her age. They came to Cookson. He was a mechanic, and then within just a few months, they were in a house. And so, as a young lady, she inherited a big family. And they do have four children of their own in that picture, but they also had a family group there's 2 of the kids in there out of that family group, but it continues to be a family, and you just continue to work. We use the same model of a mom and a dad, and then they have always tried to stack the children in what would be somewhat of a natural progression in the families. Story about Eileen, though, is that they left about a year and a half or 2 after we got there, and they moved up to Joplin. Well, they started existing in the private world, but Eileen came back and was a board member. Then for several years she was chairman of the board, but she's been a supporter all that time. And she supported not only with funds, but she supported also with her time and her energy. And they have been such a blessing because she understands the working. She understands how the families work and all. And managing 10 to 12 kids is a little different than what most of us know, but it's really doable. This family is one that I doubt you'll recognize, but Patty is the one in the middle with the long hair. I'm the skinny guy beside her in the blue shirt, and then this is our family. I'd like you to notice the boy on the right-hand side in the red shirt. I want to talk a little more about him in just a little bit, but this is just a typical family, and this was a typical ranch-style house that we had back at that time. One of the most important things I mentioned before was the focus on God, the focus on Christian life. And that's something, this is a family that is having devotions. Looks like it's about a 1970s picture, and but that's something every morning we started with devotions. We woke the kids up. We usually got up, about 6? And then we had to be in the dining hall by 7. And so we would get up, do our devotions, get the chores started, and get ready for school. This is one of the new houses today. They're quite a bit bigger. They're quite a bit nicer. And they sit in a community together. It's real nice. There's a little cul-de-sac area that has 6 houses, and then there's 6 houses in a row up on the hill. But the school is back here to the left, and so everybody's able to walk to it. Excuse me. The thing that I mentioned before was the fact that God's the focus and the center of our attention. And that's where, even today, we continue in exactly the same model of putting God first in everything, and that includes school, home, and even in our work. Excuse me. Something that I threw in just for fun is a washing machine. Now, how many of you remember Ringer washing machines? Well, we went there in '91, and guess what we used? Ringer washing machines. Now, a lot of people don't understand something about Ringer washing machines, and some of you moms and dads may be able to back me up on this. You can do more clothes in a Ringer washing machine in shorter time than anything else. You can run 3 loads at a time. We had double sinks in the laundry room, and man, the kids all learned. It was rather funny to watch some of them. But the only thing I ever had a fuss about was it bent the buckles and stuff on my overalls, but running it through the Ringer. But we were the last house to have one, and we chose to be the last house to have one because they were so handy and so fast. This is our gymnasium, quote, high school, and the first graduating class out of it. We had 4 graduate that year. As you can see, the background behind it is pretty typical of the area we live. Everything's on a hillside, and it's all got rocks in it. We don't have dirt, but we don't know how the grass grows, but God makes it grow. This is the first school staff and the present school staff. I keep doing that, I'm sorry. It's changed a little bit. We went from 2 people to a good dozen and a half, And we have changed facilities as well. And this is our new school. A few years ago, about 8 years ago, they started a capital campaign to upgrade our facilities, and our facilities were in dire need of that. We've always worked with grant organizations, and we've also worked with Living Wills or Wills and all to help out with estates that people have chosen to leave some funds to us. Through all that, we were able to raise the money to build the new homes and the new school all at the same time. And we did that debt-free. That was a $6 million project. And God blessed us. We did like about half, the last 500,000, but we were able to put the structures in and then other things provided so that we could finish those houses. But it was all done debt-free. Here's the present day graduating class. They actually graduate on the 3rd, and it's still a small class, but we have specialized education. We get a lot of children that come in behind in school, and due to the emotional and situations at home, they're not able to stay caught up on their schoolwork. So our school specializes in, and we can tailor the programs to meet the children's educational needs. The interesting thing is as you bring the educational needs up to par, and they feel a little more what I would call normal, that's probably not the right word, but as they feel more comfortable in that situation and nobody has the ability to make fun of them for being behind, and some of them just super exceed because of our programs and their schoolwork, and they learn that it's not that hard. It is possible to do it, and they excel. And you see just the change in countenance of the children as they get that confidence and that ability. This picture is of what we called Happy Hollow. This is one of the biggest changes that we've made of recent in the Happy Hollow. Happy Hollow is no longer Happy Hollow, it's just Empty Hollow. At one point in time when we went there were 18 trailer houses in this hollow for staff housing. Well, in the floods of the last 6 years, it flooded 3 times up to the house pictured there, it was inside the house. And so we made a decision that we needed to remove that area as a housing area because it flooded 3 times in 5 years. So with that, one of the jobs that I had going in was to move the houses that were there. We had 6 stick-built houses that we'd put in new, but we'd put them in on good foundations, raised foundations, and they did not flood inside, but they got close. So we decided that we'd move those, and we've placed them around the campus. We moved those 6 houses, and I did the infrastructure work for that. One of the things that I called about, and I may have said this, was that there was a water project that Cookson was trying to get going so that they could quit having wells and would be able to have real dependable water. I spent 11 years after we left Cookson as manager of a rural water district, and I have my water, sewer, and gas installation and repair and all licensed. And so I had the skill set for it, and that worked out to where when I actually called the ministry and talked to the director, and I said, you need to hire me. And he said, tell me why. And then at the end of it, at the end of the conversation, he was a boy that was there when we were house parents. He was not in our house, he was in our neighbor's house. But he wanted to come back to Cookson and give back to it. So he came back with the experience and the abilities. He had been a minister, he'd been a businessman. He came back and was the director of Cookson Hills for 5 years. But I told Heath, I said, you ought to hire me. And we talked, and we went through all the formalities of it. And at the end, before we hung up, he said, Walter, I've been waiting on your phone call. And so we got to go back to work, I did, at a place that our hearts were at all the time. So anyway, this is Happy Hollow then. This is Happy Hollow today. And I wanted to mention this primarily because y'all had a big part in that. Now, did you know that? Your men probably hadn't said a word about it, but I'm going to call their names, and I want you to know how much we appreciate what they have done. Steve Johnson, Jim Whitley, Tim Vincent, John Bossy, Kyle Riddle, Justin Bossy, Mark Flickinger, and Steve Hensley. Now, a little story about Mark is Mark designed those gates. And well, I found out, I was told, and I won't tell you that Steve told me, but I was told by Steve that he was an artist. And I said, well, I got a vision. And we communicated back and forth. And well, I went to the wrong one.
We did that. We did that. Stay right where you are.
Oh, excuse me? Okay.
Yep. That's the welding project.
Okay.
We put
That's,
pictures
so,
in back here.
okay.
We'll switch back to you in just a second.
Thank you.
This is, you can probably tell us about your air conditioner project.
Well, that's one that, you know, I can't tell you enough about our air conditioner project. Steve, in coming down, asked if there was things that we could use help on, and I showed him. And so some guys came down and did some welding and all for us and helped us out, built a well shed for us. And so I showed them this pile of metal and said, these are AC screens to help protect our AC units from grass and from rocks and stuff with the mowers. And so they took off on this, and I brought the materials up, and these guys have worked tirelessly at getting this done, and I can't thank them enough. It probably has become a bit of a sore subject sometimes maybe, but what I saw, or what I want them to understand and everybody is that because of the size of our crew, I have basically a 3-man department that takes care of all the facilities. I have some help in that, some volunteers, but at the same time, it's limited, and we can't really get special projects done like we used to. Plus the fact that we had COVID during this time, and nobody would come, and understandably so. We didn't really want anybody coming at that time because we had all these kids that we didn't want to get sick if we could avoid it. And I would say that through COVID, we were very blessed. We did have some COVID outbreaks and stuff, but nobody had it really bad, and everybody was able to get through it, and we managed that well. But this is the project. This is out at Steve's, and there's, can't tell if that's Steve or who welding, but they're welding up. They jigged up and welded these things up, and they made 60 of them. And that is incredible. And it's just, that took them a lot of time, but it didn't take us the time to do that. We'll get them finished up as far as putting the wood on them and all that with other work groups, because now that COVID's kind of broke, we're able to get more groups in. So but I don't even know how to emphasize enough what a blessing this is to us and what it will do long term on the preventive maintenance and on the longevity of the AC machines or units because of them not getting clogged up and all. Okay, so we're back at Happy Hollow. Well, here's another thing that your men have done for us. And like I said, Mark designed the gates. And was that up there a while ago when I mentioned that? Okay, so, but this is Happy Hollow. And right past where those propane tanks are sitting is where the sign was. Our offices used to be on the left, and that thing was full of trailers and houses. And so when it started flooding, it became a real bad deal for us. So we moved that all out, and we thought, well, what will we do? Well, we have a program, and the next slide will be a little bit about that. But we needed to fence that area. And so because of the importance to the children that was, came up with this concept of doing something that made a statement about what we do and what that area is for. And so we did, and this is the end results of it. Cookson is about home, school, and therapy. They mention home first because we believe that's where it starts. That's where you have the opportunity to teach the children. As you probably well know Proverbs 22:6 says, train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not turn from it. That is sounds somewhat like an easy thing to do. It takes a lot of effort to train up a child in the way they should go. We, in our stay at Cookson and in our life, we've had 54 children in our home. And there's not a success story with every one of them. We have lost 5 of our children that we know of. And it wasn't a good story on all of them. But they at least had an introduction to it. I want to show you this young man. This boy's named Jamie Ross. I called and asked him, I said, can I use you in a presentation? I said, I won't tell your name. He said, tell him my name. And you'd have to know Jamie to know that he's perfectly fine with that. Jamie came to us, and he wasn't going to be in our house. We were on intake, and his brother and him came, and the dad. And Jamie was not a happy young man. Neither one of them were. Dad had lied to him a little bit. Didn't tell him the whole truth about what he was doing when he brought him on a trip from up at Ohio. And Jamie was just a mad, mad young man. He and his brother had been breaking into houses and doing some stuff like that. And Jamie was 15 and thank you. But anyway, Jamie came to us and sitting in that, thank you very much. Sitting in the intake room, which was a big room, and we're all sitting down at tables. The supervisors are there, and both sets of house parents are there. And we had a new set of house parents that had 2 little kids that they were wanting to adopt. And Jamie said, I'll just kill the children in the house. I'm not staying. And well, needless to say, the new house parents kind of raised their eyebrows and were scared to death. Well, the dad didn't know what to do. And he was an English professor up in Champaign, Ohio. I think it's Champaign. There's a college up there. And Jamie, he just shut down. And the Lord works in mysterious ways and through the Holy Spirit and stuff. But I sat there for a minute and I tried to figure out what we could do to help this kid. And the Lord, Lord talks to you in mysterious ways. I didn't hear a voice. I just in my head heard, you need to talk to him. And so I asked if we'd take a break. And the supervisor said, well, yeah, we can. I said, I'd like to talk to this young man. So everybody left the room, and this kid, because of his past, figured I was going to hit him or something. And I told him, I said, you're just really upset, aren't you? And he said, yeah. And I said, what are you going to do? He said, I don't know, but I'm not doing it here. And I said, well, what are your options? Jamie said, well, I'm not sure, but I'm not doing it here. And I said, well, Jamie, you need to consider what you're going to be doing it and where you're going to be doing it. I said, you're headed to juvie. And I said, that's your dad's only option, and you're not going to like that. Well, I can make it. I'm tough enough. I said, I don't doubt you are. I said, but what are you going to learn? And so through the conversation, it only took us about 15 minutes. It takes me longer to tell the story, is that Jamie, I told him, I said, I can tell you one thing if you'll give me a chance. If they'll let you move into my house and you'll give me a chance, I can promise you I'll never lie to you. And he looked at me and he said, I don't know. And I said, well, I'm going to tell you, I'm a man of my word, and that's a promise. Supervisors came back in, his dad came back in, and I threw the pitch about, can he move into our house? Well, he did. And we had some rough runs. It didn't go well. There were some times that Jamie just did what he did, and he would blow up, and he would react to something and act out bad. But over time, he continued to soften a little bit, and he gave a little bit. Anyway, today, this is Jamie. This is at our church when he came to visit. He has 2 biological children and an adopted child. He is a super dad. And at 40 years old, He gave his life to the Lord. The thing about Cookson Hills is that you get a chance to affect lives. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't seem to. Jamie was very dependent on his ability to do things himself. Even to this day he is. But he understands that he does it. He's able to be the person he is due to the Lord. He spent some rough days in the military. Went to Iraq, fought there, was in some really bad stuff. But he's become a gentle giant. And it's because of the Lord. So we mentioned therapy. We didn't have quite the programs that we have today. We had counseling. We had a lot of times with Dad in the back room of the house. And we would talk, and sometimes we would talk for hours. Jamie was one of those that I believed I had to wear him down. Managed to do that. But not for the purpose of beating him, but for the purpose of helping him see a better way. And Jamie picked it up. Took him till 40, but he did it. And that's, if that is the only child that Cookson ever affected, it's worth it. So what we'd like to ask is that you connect with us. All this modern technology today is beyond my grasp. But you can get on the internet, you can learn a lot about Cookson, you can see things that are happening, you can kind of get involved without having to travel there. But what I would encourage you to do is travel there. When we have times that you can come they have smaller open houses, or they call them, I don't remember exactly what they call them, sorry. The hilltop experiences, and because we live up on a hill. They have that, and you get to come and get to see some of the kids in action and their learning and all. One thing that Steve has been involved with and came down and got involved with originally was the horse program. We have an equine therapy program. And I don't understand all about it. We had started it back in the last years we were there. But they use horses to help kids learn how to deal with people and how to deal with situations. And it's remarkable the difference that makes. And I won't try to explain all that because I really don't know it. But it's really neat to see how those children relate, how they learn to conduct themselves in a better manner with the people around them. And you get to see a lot of progress. So please pick up the brochures. Please just ask any questions. I'll hang around, and you can ask Patty and I any questions you desire, and we'll try to answer them the best we can. But I thank you for letting us come today. I thank you for allowing us to get to know a lot of you folks, and for your involvement. Your money support's important. I don't want to ever minimize that. But what's really important is your prayers. And if we don't have your prayers, I just prefer you keep your money, because it ain't going to work. And so I don't say that to be coy. I say that to say that the most important thing you can do is keep us in your prayers, keep the kids in your prayers, and then you serve as the Lord calls you to. If anybody wants to come to work for us, we'll take you. We need people. We're needing house parents right now. Satan loves to play games. And so he's always that roaring lion seeking for whom he can devour. And so we have ups and downs in people staying and leaving. But we would appreciate anybody that's interested in that to contact us and let us know. But again, your prayers mean more than anything. Thank you very much.